How's it going? Dave here, and welcome to the second Q&A video. So if you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comments for future Q&A videos, but let's get started with the questions now. So, Adonis Lahara asks, how to improvise over chord changes? Well, I could do a whole video on this one, but I'll give you a few tips. So first of all, you can arpeggiate the chords that are being played. So for example, if you've got a C chord that's being played, then you can play a C major arpeggio. You can do that with sweep picking, or if you know your cage system, you can just play the notes of those C shapes. You could do stuff like that. Also, you could focus on chord tones. Again, if we're soloing over a C major chord, the notes in the C major chord are C, E, and G. So if you're playing maybe with your pentatonic scale, you can target the note C. You can target E as well. And you could target G. Pay attention to what chords are being played and what notes are within those chords, and just target those notes, emphasize those notes. One more thing you can do when soloing over chord changes is pay attention to what scales work over particular chords. So if I was to play a 2-5-1 in the key of C, so D minor 7, G7, and C major 7, then for the D minor 7, I could play a D Dorian scale. I could play a G Mixolydian scale over the G, but if I turn it into an altered chord, and even though over sometimes over a dominant chord, just a dominant 7 chord, you could play the altered scale, and over your C major you could play obviously the C major scale or C major pentatonic. So for example, D minor 7, G, C major 7. So there you go, that's how you can solo over chord changes. Masato Dan asks, what kind of warming up exercises do you do on the guitar? For warming up exercises, I've got a couple. I use the standard spider. That's playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on every string with the fingers 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm sure you know about that one. But I also use another one, which is quite interesting. So what you need to do for this is make sure your thumb is straight in the middle of the neck and it doesn't move out of place there. Yeah, we're not going like that or anything. We're just keeping it straight, okay? And that's the most important thing, along with playing this exercise smoothly. This one's not about speed, it's about playing it correctly. What we're gonna do is place our index finger on the 12th fret of the D string, middle finger on the 13th fret of the G string, ring finger on the 14th fret of the B string, and little finger on the 15th fret of the E string. And what you do is you just play that chord. It's kind of a disgusting chord, I'll admit that, and all the chords in this exercise are disgusting, but it's a really good warm-up. It does get the blood flowing in there. So then what you do is switch the strings of your inner fingers, so your middle and your ring finger, like that. Then you switch what strings your outer fingers are playing, so your index finger and your little finger, but keep the frets the same. And then you do your inner fingers again, and then your outer fingers again, and you're back to where you started. Then you can do that a few times. And then what you can do is stretch one finger back a fret. So my index finger now goes to the 11th fret, but we keep the exercise the same. It adds a bit of a stretch. And then you can bring your middle finger back to the 12th fret. This is horrible. And then you can bring your ring finger back to the 13th fret. And then you can bring your little finger back to the 14th fret. just like that, and you can just keep repeating until you can't go any further. There'll be a certain point when you just literally can't stretch your fingers that far. So that's a really good warm-up exercise too. And also, before I do my warm-up exercises, I do a few stretches. So I'll do wrist rotations with both hands. I'll do some wrist stretches like this. It's important to keep your arms straight when you're doing it. This one, and I'll do my fingers as well, both ways. And then I'll just massage my fingers and my hands everywhere, all the nooks and crannies. Just getting everything nice and massaged. So give that a go. Nightbringer Fitness asks, how can I write chord progressions like Periphery? I can play them just fine. Just now, ideas how to write my own, as I don't know the theory behind what's going on, particularly the chords in the intro to All New Materials. I'd love to know how to put something like that together. Okay, right, we're gonna go in depth with this one. So, first of all, we're going to tune our guitar to drop D. This is going to give us a lot of benefits, so let's drop D first. We can do power chords with one finger, and that opens up our other three fingers to do other crazy shapes. So that's what we're going to do. So then the next thing we have to do is choose the key that we're playing in. What you want to consider with a key is choosing a key where you're able to play lots of open strings. So I'm going to choose the key B minor. In B minor, we've got B, we can play that as an open string. C sharp, D, we can play that as an open string. E, we can play that as an open string. F sharp, G, we can play that as an open string. And A, which we can play as an open string. So we can literally play every open string and it will be in the key. That's important because Periphery, especially Mark Holcomb's riffs, like to use open strings. Now you need to create a basic chord progression with power chords. So in the key of B, I'm playing the 9th fret, then the open power chord, then the 5th fret, then the 7th fret. All right. So the foundation and the base of all of these chord progressions is going to be a power chord. Just the first two strings, the root and the 5th. And then what you've got to do after that is find where all your semitone intervals are within your key. So we have a semitone between C sharp and D. We also have a semitone between F sharp and G. And then try and find all the places around the fretboard where you can play those two notes at the same time. So we've got that, that. We've got that as well. Where else can we do that? We can do there, and we can also do there as well. So figure those out. They sound kind of disgusting on their own, but then when you add them into chords, it sounds really nice in context. So let's take our first chord, that 9th fret power chord, and let's add that semitone interval in. So I can do one on the 11th fret of the D string and the 7th fret of the G string. Now if I mix that in with the power chord, sounds awesome. And then what you can do is if you've got any spare open strings or fingers, then try and add those in as well. So what I can do is I can use my ring finger to play the 10th fret of the B string. Ooh. And then, if possible, I can play the open E string as well. Okay, so now with the second chord, I can use that semitone interval. So that's the 4th fret of the D string and the open G string. So I'm playing the open power chord along with that semitone interval. And then I can play the high E string, open, and the 3rd fret of the B string. These are just notes I experimented with and made chords with. There's no theory behind those two particular notes on the B and E strings. Then for the chord on the 5th fret, let's see what we can do. So we have a few options. We could play power chord at the 5th fret with the 6th fret of the G string and the 3rd fret of the B string. And then maybe play an open high E string as well. I don't like that one too much. Maybe, let's see. And again, you don't have to use semitones for every single chord. So I could maybe just play, what you do is get power chord and then use your other fingers to kind of just experiment with notes that might work. So can I get that? There we go. So I'm playing the 5th fret of the low E and A strings, then the 9th fret of the D string with my little finger, 7th fret of the D string, of the G string with my middle finger, 8th fret of the B string with my ring finger, and barring that 5th fret, do you know what, I might just play it as an open string because open strings are really useful. I like that one, we'll do that. Ooh. And then for the 7th fret chord, we have the 11th fret of the G string and the 8th fret of the B string. That's a semitone interval that we have there. So if we play that alongside our power chord, we have that nice sound. And then maybe we can add the open E string. That sounds good. Maybe we've got our ring finger spare here as well, so try and utilize that where you can. Maybe that one works. So let's try the whole chord progression. And then obviously you'd add little lead lines over the top. So the purpose of those semitones is to add tension, and then you can kind of resolve the tension by doing those little lead lines. So something like that. I don't know, I was just making that up on the spot. So that's how you can write some cool Periphery style chord progressions. That's not everything they do, and I don't even think that's what they're thinking when they do it, but that's my breakdown of it, so give it a go. A couple more questions we've got. So James Patrick Lane, my good friend James Patrick Lane, we did a video together, you can check it out there. I was playing guitar blindfolded, it's really cool. He asks, what does he ask? He asks, what's your writing process like, or how do you like to go about writing? So what I like to do is I like to try something different every single time I write a new song. So I'll start with drums for one song. Then the next song, I'll start with a riff on guitar. Then the next song, I'll maybe write a piano melody and build from there. So I just like to do different stuff each time. And his second question is, what's your favorite way to try and get rid of writer's block? Well, James, I talk about this all in my new book, Chord Charisma, which you can check out in the link in the description. It's great, it's awesome. It's really great for eliminating that writer's block. But if I was to give you a quick tip now in this video, I would say start off really simple. That's what I do. I'll start with like the most basic sounding thing and just gradually add things on from there. And then it can turn into something more complex and unique sounding. So that was my Q&A video. If you have any questions for the next Q&A video, drop them in the comments. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I know about 80% of you are not subscribed to my channel because I look at the stats. So make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.